And can we welcome, please, Henry Williams to the stage? Welcome, Henry.
I think my heads are also about 8 years old. So today I'm going to be talking about challenges to TV supremacy and brand building, and we'll get into what we mean by that with the slides. So first of all, just a bit about us. So I'm from Oliver and Ohlbaum Associates. We're advisors to the media, entertainment and sports sectors. And within that, we do strategy, commercial, investment and policy projects. And on the left-hand side, just a few examples of some of our clients. So we work all across the media value chain, and that includes content producers through to broadcasters and platforms. We also work with advertisers, regulators, investors, and that's across TV, audio, music, sports, games, so pretty much everything within media. So the starting premise for this was we were thinking about 10 years ago, and it was pretty well established that TV was the best way to advertise if you wanted to build a strong brand, and online was already at that point becoming the best place for converting interest into purchase. And we've got a very simplified traditional marketing funnel here, but what we mean by that is TV is really, really good, and certainly 10 years ago was the best at being the starting point for building your brand. And this is where you want to reach everyone with your advertising. Very good for products where you don't necessarily want very precise targeting, but you need everyone to know about your brand for your campaign to be successful. Of course, 10 years ago, very easy to reach 10 million plus people simultaneously on TV, and you also have the premium association with the brands of the broadcasters as well. And then, of course, online, really good for presence campaigns, so triggered by actions such as search or previous purchases, or maybe a bit of extra dwell time on a social media feed. And that with that data and targeting obviously was already at this point better than TV. But what we're now seeing today is with quite drastic shifts in TV viewing and online video viewing, is it still the case that TV is the best place for brand building advertising? Or is there more now kind of more competition due to these consumption changes? So of course, as I'm sure we all know, there's been record declines to TV viewing in recent Ofcom figures. And I guess most worryingly for TV, even within that, the most resilient cohorts of older viewers also moving more to streaming. And at the same time, separate research shows that over 70s are now the second most online age group after people in their 20s. So we're just going to drill into some of this consumption data a bit more before we then get on to what that means for advertising. So overall, if we look at total video viewing in the UK from 2015 to 2023, we can see that without a sort of bit of a COVID bump and plateau again, the overall picture is broadly flat with some very moderate growth. But within that, there's been quite a shift. So broadcaster TV has steadily declined, and that itself is made up with more drastic declines to linear and broadcast TV, and then some growth in their broadcaster VOD platforms, which hasn't overall stemmed the decline, so it hasn't fully offset the decline, but it has slowed the decline. And then, of course, as we all know, the growth has largely been from SVOD and YouTube, and more latterly from TikTok in the last few years. So just to look at why broadcast TV is now declining so rapidly, the TV industry has always comforted itself with the idea that people will naturally watch more linear TV as they get older. And they call this the life stage effect. So the idea is that as you get older, you might go out a bit less, possibly have kids, and then you're at home more, and there's more time to watch TV. And there's a big shift in that behaviour at retirement too. And that really did pan out in the data historically. So in our kind of viewing models that we do, you can see from 2003 to 2013, the 25 to 34-year-olds, as they aged up to 35 to 44-year-olds in 10 years, they were increasing their viewing and kind of taking on more of the behaviour of their predecessors. But what we've seen in the 10 years since then, from 2013 to 2023, is the complete opposite happening. So with the proliferation of new SVOD services and video sharing platforms becoming easier to access, now people are actually taking on the behaviour of the younger generation. So in 10 years, you're kind of aging down in what you're viewing. And that's more of a worrying trend for TV, that people are no longer kind of watching more as they get older. And what it does mean is when we then forecast this forward, it appears that the current viewing decline will actually accelerate. We don't think it will just continue indefinitely. There probably is a floor which will be underpinned by live sports and appointment TV. But there is sort of an open question on whether TV as it currently stands can kind of survive just underpinned by that kind of viewing. And then just the other kind of consumption data to look at is what's happening with gaming, which is of course audiovisuals, the other kind of challenger to video. And there isn't any directly comparable consumption data, which is one of the challenges with combining these formats that we'll get onto later. But research from Newzoo shows that Gen Alpha now engage more with gaming content than any other form of leisure time. And for Gen Z, it's equal between gaming and social networks. And then even for the kind of medium and older generations, it even has a meaningful share. So gaming has really grown in audiovisual and putting more pressure on video for share of leisure time. So the next thing is to then think, well, what does this mean for TV if its viewing's declining? What are other players within the AV ecosystem doing that could pose more of a threat to its role as the main place for brand building? So the first thing to look at is that whilst total video viewing has remained broadly flat, so we can see in this period we're looking at 2015 to 2023, it's only grown at a sort of annual growth rate of 0.4%. In the same time, ad spend on video has significantly increased. So we can see an annual growth rate at 9.7%. And while some of that was a kind of post-COVID overcorrection where there was a massive increase in spend, importantly for video overall, that didn't then decrease in 2023, whereas it really did decrease for the TV-only advertising. And then just coming back to this, it's important to note that a lot of this video growth hasn't been in the kind of equivalent to TV advertising. So, in this period, TV still has kind of been the main place for these premium, broad brand building ad campaigns. And a lot of growth has been in social video and video platform sharing advertising. And within that, you have a range of different types of advertising. Obviously, I'm sure you're all familiar on the likes of YouTube and TikTok, where there can be a variety of deployment techniques and a wide range of ad types. Whereas, on TV, you kind of more have one type of advertising, which is more around building a brand campaign. But the question is this now in a position where this might change? Now with TV's current trajectory, are there more opportunities for others, the likes of YouTube and other digital players, to actually build more of a presence in the kind of advertising that TV's been strong in historically? So the first kind of group to look at is the global SVOD services and what they're doing in advertising. Of course, YouTube already very established in advertising as well. And the first one to look at is Netflix. So obviously they've had their ad tier for a couple of years now, and they have around 23 million global users on the ad tier. And that's about 10% of their total subscriber base. So it's clearly quite early stages for them. But they are starting to make shifts in content strategy to support more of an ad model. So then kind of moving into sports content with a WWE deal. It's kind of an early stage that this is going to be significant for them going forward, because they're kind of moving into more high engagement content rather than content purely designed to work on subscription management with new subs and preventing churn. Then Disney, of course, already has a very successful AVOD business in the US with Hulu. But they're now trying to roll this out more widely across Disney Plus globally. And whilst it's still quite small for them at this point, they have announced that 50% of new subs later on in 2023 were to the ad tier. So it is something they are scaling and are hoping to do more. And then Amazon, of course, potentially one of the most interesting is that they already have a $45 billion ad business, largely out of video. But the way that's grown has been staggering and does now put them as the third largest advertising business in the world after Google and Facebook. And just to see how really quickly that's grown, it was only in 2021 when they even started breaking ads out as a reportable segment. Prior to that, it was just in this kind of other category. And everyone was surprised when they first fully broke it out that it actually, at that point, was already almost the same revenue as Prime subscriptions. And now, of course, it's significantly overtaken Prime subscriptions. So advertising's become a larger business for Amazon than subscriptions. And they're quite early on in how they've rolled it out to video. But of course, as Prime Video viewing can grow and they can get more content that kind of has more engagement on that platform, things like the MGM deal to get a large library to support that, and as they roll out Amazon channels so that they can serve these ads across different VOD services as well, then they could really come to have a very compelling offer that can rival TV in the type of advertising where TV's traditionally been strong. And then YouTube. I know the session after me is going to look at this in much more detail, but one of YouTube's core strategies at the moment is to really grow share of viewing on TVs. And they've been very successful at doing this in the last few years. So from 2020 to 2023, they've grown the share of YouTube viewing on TVs from 30 to 45%. And this gives YouTube much more flexibility in the type of advertising it can be used for. I'm sure lots of you are aware, used to kind of the certain type of YouTube ad you might get on your phone. Well, now, if you're watching more on the TV, there's kind of more of a natural domain for the type of ad people are used to being served on the TV set. And then, of course, they can also leverage their experience from the US, where with YouTube TV, they have a more TV-style ad business from IP-distributed cable channels. And then just to look at gaming. So the in-game UK ad market in 2024 is projected to be worth £2.7 billion. That's about half the size of the total TV and BVOD market, so already hugely substantial. Within that, there's a bit of a range of the type of ads you can have. A lot of it is lower production value mobile ads. The kind of, I'm sure you're probably all aware, but you often get pop-ups for other mobile games, and there's kind of generally a lower production value there. But what is really also growing is the more premium in-game advertising on console and PC games. And we just got a few examples on the screen, like the Mercedes car in Mario Kart. This is obviously a very exciting format because it offers very creative and innovative ways for advertisers to get their brands across. And it's also quite interesting as a potential partnership route between gaming and TV, because where TV's really fallen off is with the younger demographics, and where gaming is really strong is with those demographics, but potentially doesn't have the same kind of mass simultaneous reach that TV's historically been strong in. So one thing we've been kind of working through is where we think there might actually be quite a good synergy between those two formats. And then lastly, just a few other things which are also contributing to the more competitive landscape. As the digital out-of-home real estate extends, that gives more competition to TV, and it's another form which is quite good for building brands and makes it more impactful. There's lots going on with sports advertising. One example is how you can change sideboard feeds within the same sports feed in different markets to make it more effective to local markets. And then obviously Gen AI, I'm sure lots of you have seen some really cool things that can be done with creating ads from basically scratch using Gen AI. I think it's pretty well established that advertising will be one of the first video formats where Gen AI really takes off, because you don't have the same kind of artistic, qualitative judgment on whether it's really art or not. You can just go purely on the metrics on whether it's working. And as that really brings the cost of creative down for advertising, we think there's an opportunity to roll out many more premium ads on a wider range of formats. So you don't have to reserve your premium ads for something like TV, where you can, you need a strong return on investment to make it make sense. But you could actually roll it out on lots of platforms, even if it's got smaller reach, because the cost will come down. And then there's always wacky things. There's a trial happening in the US where they're giving people TVs for free if they have a second screen which always has ads on. There'll always be crazy things going on like that. So then just to conclude, so where will this go next? I mean, obviously the degree to which TV is threatened by these new forms of advertising for brand building will really vary by market. So in the UK, we have seen these drastic declines to TV viewing. Some other markets aren't as far progressed. And also the level of technology adoption and things like game penetration, use of YouTube, use of SVOD, that all has an impact as well. Then a major one for TV to work through is how they work through this with their ways of working. One of the challenges for TV is the traditional agency model with share of broadcast deals and rebates and discounts is not very compatible with a lot of these new ways of working. And lots of people in this domain are used to real-time pricing and self-serve platforms. And one of the challenges for TV is how you can marry that together if TV wants to stay relevant in this rapidly progressing world. And then, of course, in order to enable those ways of working, you need the data. So a challenge at the moment is a lack of comparable measurement data. As we saw earlier, there isn't the same consumption data for gaming. There's not even the same consumption data really across all forms of video. So, does everyone need to move to the TV currency, or should there be a new currency that comes together? And then just on the screen here, I've got a few of the things that we're currently helping our clients with in these issues. So how we can help with TV content, measurement, technology, transitioning to new trading models. And then we think most importantly at this point in time, partnerships between different parts of the ecosystem so you can build the most compelling offer to advertisers. Thank you very much for listening. I'm now going to hand over to the next session.